Welcome, everyone, to another edition of News and Views. As you can see, we have a special guest. My name is Elmira. I am your host. Our guest today is Tresa Chambers. I'm not one for titles, but I would call her an intellectual and plus an international business builder. Our topic today, because me and her were having a conversation almost a couple of weeks ago regarding this book called Brainwashed, Challenging the Myth of Black Inferiority by Tom Burrell. And one of the things that came up was education, mindset, this being Black Mental Health Month. We wanted to have this story to give you some proactive steps. So first of all, Teresa, welcome. Based on the topic, how did we get here? Or how did you get here?
Thanks so much, Elmira. Well, okay. I am a lifelong reader. I've been reading since I was three. And a lifelong learner, always curious about many things, and especially interested in learning about Black history and culture and our identity. Being an advocate for social justice, civil rights, and being able to be informed about all of the issues. I started out in journalism, actually. My first career was in journalism. Really grounding myself in the ability to collect information and evaluate it, do research, and understand great sources of information. And so, since then, I have been a marketing communications professional, a brand strategist, and launched many different products and brands and initiatives. And I've worked in different sectors in publishing and higher education and in the nonprofit world. All of this knowledge and experience has allowed me to aggregate a lot of knowledge and information, and also to really be strategic in my thinking about how it all fits together and analyze how to apply this information in a way that's useful and valuable to the community.
To
So
me,
I guess, yeah.
yeah.
So I guess with this particular book, in my community, I've been seeking a community to read with, and as fate has it, divine order comes, and I connected with a group in my local community. It's a Sankofa book study group, and was invited to join at the point where Brainwashed was the book that they were in the process of reading, and immediately jumped in and was actually invited after attending one time to lead the following discussion the following month. And that chapter was about education specifically, and how our education system is one that reinforces Black inferiority. And that's kind of where we started talking about this.
Yeah, well, I will ask you this. What have you noticed about the education system specifically that reinforces Black inferiority? What elements have you seen?
So I'll say this, I don't have children, so I can speak to my specific experience in starting my education, and a couple of instances since then. At our book study group, I started the conversation sharing that when I was in kindergarten, I entered reading at a fifth grade level, and my principal asked my parents to move me to a magnet school. Now, of course, this was this was a few years after integration into the school,
Mm-hmm.
and I was living in Virginia. And so the principal wanted to send me to a magnet school, and my father said no. And I didn't know. I was, 5, 6 years old, and I didn't understand. But I now understand that that meant that my father was probably concerned about being taken away from the community, and the risks that's involved in that. experience for Black children in Virginia. And I ultimately was skipped one grade and continued to go through school. So I graduated from high school at 16 and went to college. Then when I went to college, my experience in higher education was such that I had, by the end of by the time I was ready to graduate, we were required to write a thesis, an undergraduate thesis. And the topic of my thesis was institutionalized racism at the university. So those are my early experiences. And then I've had an opportunity at different times. I ran an arts-based family literacy program in Miami years later and had to work. I worked with children in under-resourced communities. And I think that using that language is really critical because that really is the essence of what the outcome, the result of the perceptions of Black inferiority are is that we are put in a position to accept less, whether we are willing to accept less. Oftentimes, the access is limited, and when you're in that environment, it really is difficult to move past it because of some of the other factors that come into play when you're talking about, being in a generational community that has been economically disadvantaged, educationally disadvantaged, and it just perpetuates itself from generation to generation. So seeing that really kind of became the true life example for me to understand what the true impact of that reinforced Black inferiority is.
Yeah, that term, I never really heard it put that way, but I can tell you every time somebody says underprivileged or at risk, I'm like, it stings me. I'm like, why are we using this terminology? Because it really
Right.
is under resource. That's
Right.
what it is. It's not
Yes.
the other way around.
That's right. We didn't choose the experience. We didn't choose to be privileged or not. It is something that the institutions that have created and perpetuated that have put us in the situation where we don't have the access, where the resources aren't made available for us.
Yeah. What have you noticed? Because I know you mentioned being, of course, you don't have children. I don't have children either. But I witness my nephews, my niece, other children I know. Two of my sisters are in the public school system, so I'm aware of what's going on now in education. What is one of the things that really, because of course we got the under resource, what's one of the things that's leading to the current Black inferiority? Because of course we can say, oh, of course, this 1960s we were this far from integration, or 1970, or we were that close to this, or civil rights movement, all of that. But now we're in 2026 and beyond. Why are we still there?
Well, it is systemic. I will say, my observation, and again, these are my observations based on my reading of scenarios because I do I pay a lot of attention to politics and our society, and I think about this a lot. And so this country was built on discriminate a discriminatory system, right? All of our systems have been built based on discrimination and specifically um, reinstituting Black racism and the idea of inferiority. And it's not, those systems have not changed. And I will say that I thought after the pandemic, when all of the systems were breaking, that the way forward would be that we would rebuild those systems, education system, economic system, housing, all of the systems that we have built in this society. I thought all of those systems had an opportunity. We had an opportunity as a nation to rebuild those systems after they broke in 2020 because we also saw what was possible. And unfortunately, there was a backlash. And the fact is that what I see is that, the people who are the most interested and most invested in reinforcing the idea of Black inferiority have been placed in power and are actually rebuilding these systems with greater force to keep us in a position, to attempt to keep us in a position of inferiority. Unfortunately, too many of us are participating, willingly or unwillingly, in establishing and maintaining that sense of Black inferiority. So we can't change it overnight. Most recently, the breaking of the Voting Rights Act by the Supreme Court has been devastating to our attempts to create a more equitable society, to start to shift the mindset of of people from all backgrounds so that no one is interested in maintaining a sense of inferiority. It doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't. And I'll tell you, to add on to what you're saying, I don't know if you're aware, I'm in Elmira speaking from spiritual nature. The systems are being rebuilt. Actually, that's one of the reasons I was here. I am here on this earth. I'm rebuilding systems, media, everything. I'm starting there. I'm rebuilding the way we do business. So there are definitely, it's happening. There's a sector of people, like in human design, called projectors, who are here to do the rebuilding, and it's not happening in the public. So I can tell you it's happening.
You just used one of my favorite phrases, human
What?
design.
Uh-oh. I didn't even know. I didn't know.
Yes, a lot of people don't know, and people are going to start learning. I am a 2/4 manifesting generator. And
Ooh.
yes, so um, we are the builders, right? That's what we do. The generators and manifesting generators. And so I completely understand where you're coming from as a projector. That is another conversation we can
I
have maybe
know
on
that's
this
a
one.
whole nother, but this is making sense now, Teresa, why we even connected, because we have that four in common. I'm a
Ah,
four
yes,
one. That's the networking, the community
yes,
aspect. We get things done. Because even my boyfriend, he's a 4 6. So
wow.
like I got the fours all around.
All around. Yes, yes.
Because one thing, just to highlight that this conversation, of course, is not going to be about human design, but it's relevant. Once we know our personal blueprint and we know the blueprint of our community, it all makes sense. We are superior. We're not, and it's not like a top down thing. I'm better than you. You understand who you are. Like you said, you're a builder.
And to that point, I think that the the ability to have the space emotionally, mentally, to explore these new ways of thinking allows us to elevate ourselves beyond this idea that is part of a system that isn't serving us, a system that is actually not interested in serving us. Um, and so having the understanding that there are other ways, other strategies to live is really a way to begin to unravel the connection that we have to the systems that are not operating in our best interest.
It's going to require a lot of unraveling. I can tell you that. It's,
Yes, yes, it is. And as we learn in human design, all it requires is a decision to do so.
hmm.
Um, and I believe that that's the case also in, in faith communities. And, um, if we believe the truth about who God is, then that is also the opportunity. Um, I have these conversations with people about faith, not religion, but faith. And I ask, do you have faith or do you believe that you are in control? And understanding what you control and the fact that um, if you are someone who believes that God is all powerful and that you let go and you let God, then why would you interfere with what God is doing? So I'm a philosopher, and I have been blessed to have a lot of time to reflect and explore these things, and I don't think I have all the answers, but I like to ask these questions because I want people to be successful regardless of their belief systems. And I think that I believe that is possible because we are all unique and we are all here for a reason and our own unique reasons. Every one of us has one. And it is a reason that has to do with being additive to our community and the world. And so, however you can find that, then I encourage you. I am the biggest cheerleader for all things that are good and that work for us to make us more joyful, more peaceful, more prosperous, and healthier.
Oh yeah, you philosophy. Yes, yes. I, yeah, I love that. You better than Socrates and all them. Modern.
Perhaps, hey, it will be written thousands of years after I'm gone. So, all I have to do is do the best that I can that I know to do while I'm here, because I have no idea how it will resonate when I'm not here.
Yeah, that's true. You were telling me earlier about your ebook and the first step you outlined. Give us some details about that.
Sure. So the book is called How to Launch: 9 Lessons to Help Your Ideas Take Off. And in my professional life, I position myself as a launch strategist. Over my career, I realized after going through all of the assessments that we do and figuring out how we want to, put our headline on LinkedIn and, headlines on our resume and everything, thinking about what my unique value proposition is, I have had more experience launching new ideas, products, programs, initiatives, brands than I've done anything else. And so I wrote a book about it. And so How to Launch is that book. And it really is a workbook because I believe in providing useful information that is also actionable that someone can take right away. And so, in How to Launch, the first lesson is to do an audit. And I think that's so critical for any of us at whatever stage we are. If we're trying to make a decision about what to do next, then a great thing to do first is to do that audit because life happens so fast and we are in this age where we acquire information, knowledge, and experiences at such a fast pace that a lot of times we don't take stock of what we've recently learned, but we also don't reflect on the accomplishments that we've had in the past and who is in our network and who is in our community. A lot of times these days, there's so much discussion about your network, and being, some of us are connectors or some of us are the doers, but having time to just sit down and think about what are the things that you've already accomplished up to now is really important as far as helping you uh, make a decision about what you want to do next, because you prioritize the things that really matter to you in the moment. And that varies over time, right? When you are, first graduating from college or first graduating from high school, your priorities are different, your interests are different. If you're in a job change situation, you're going to be looking at what you've accomplished and what's relevant. If you're thinking about starting a business, then there are going to be certain assets that you have that you may not have considered before. And really, that could be anything from your education, speeches that you've written, books or articles that you've written, but even it goes to the communities that you're a part of. So whether it's personal communities, whether it's mentors, or whether it's your professional networks, if you look at those things and lay them out, then there's an opportunity to say, okay, well, just because I haven't used this particular asset in a decade or two, it might become more of a priority for me to use now. It might be relevant now. And so doing that process is really valuable, I think, especially if you're at a decision point.
Yeah, and what you brought to mind there is this decision point. Because wasn't it last year like about 300,000 or more government workers lost their job? And now we just, Spirit Airlines shut down, Oracle the other month. It's been Oracle, the CEO sent them an email and they were gone. And I know with your history of doing launches on the other end, is the ending. Yeah, we're launching, but what happens when we got to land? We
Right.
might got to land on the ground. What do
Yes.
you say to the person now? Because you alluded to this, but there are many people at that decision point. They're either losing their job is being cut back, they're afraid of AI. It could be all a myriad of things. How should they launch?
Well, um, I do think doing that audit first is really important and thinking about what really matters at this time. I think also, Elmira, that um, you really have to look at the environment that you're in and make a determination whether it's the place for you to be now. And I have moved around a lot for my opportunities and for my joy. And when you're in a moment of transition, it's really difficult sometimes to think about uh, changing something very significant or feel like you have control over certain circumstances. But that is really important. We go back to what we were talking about earlier, but understanding what you have control over is really, really important. And looking at the environment that you're in is really important. I was speaking with someone recently about my love of politics and my interest in civil rights and social justice. And one of the things that came up was the idea of relocating to a place like Washington, D.C. And my immediate response was, well, there's hundreds of thousands of people who are in Washington, D.C. right now who are looking for a job. So the need for me to relocate doesn't necessarily make sense for me right now. But that being said, there are people who are in these locations where there is a question. Do you really want to be there? Do you like living there, or were you just living there because that's where your job was and you have to be there?
Mm.
Do you look at this release of all of these people as a loss, or is it an opportunity? Is it an opportunity for you to make a change, to choose something different, to explore new opportunities and ideas and possibilities for yourself, even if you have a family. You know, I've had conversations with people in the past who want to see the world, and they will say, "Well, I have children." Um, and my response has been, well, you know, they have children all over the world, so I'm sure you'll be good, right? But it's so the point is, it goes to this inferiority thing. It's really about a mindset that is about limiting yourself instead of freeing yourself and understanding what you control. And so, in the same vein of that limiting belief that you have about who you are and what you're capable of, this moment when you are told something by a company, an institution, that there's no longer room for you,
Mm.
then the question becomes, do you accept that as an offense or do you accept it as a gift and then move in the direction of what you have been released to do?
Yeah, is it a gift or is it a curse? That's how in me I have so many skills. You talk about doing an audit. One thing that came to mind is my certification as a death doula and practice as it. And what that has taught me is just what you said. Because I can understand, yes, we lose that person in the physical, but what's the gift? What's the knowledge? What's the legacy that person left behind? I've been gifted to be in the presence of people dying. And some people may say, how are you doing that? It's a transformation, it's growth.
Well, and you speak to, you know, a lot of people live in fear. But again, it's my belief that fear is based on an unwillingness to let go of something that is familiar. Um, and the fact of the matter is that, you know, with losing jobs is, you know, something in particular. I think about, you know, over the years, I have, my job has been eliminated. I have chosen to leave. I have been let go. And at those points, uh, uh, there's a shift from the known to the unknown, right? And so I think that that is where a lot of people live in their fear. They won't let go of the known for the unknown. And in reality, most of our lives are unknown if we are willing to live them. So, you know, having um, an opportunity, I don't believe anything is a curse. And I say that with in honor of people who have experienced very challenging situations. So we're talking about in an environment like a job. So I don't think that that is a curse in any circumstance. It really is a opportunity to have a reckoning with ourselves about what really matters, about who we are, and you know, looking at the time that we're in, and obviously, you've gotten a clear signal that something's got to change, and the change doesn't have to be dramatic, but something's changed,
Hmm.
and so you can fight it and live in fear, or you know, fall into a very difficult state, or you can embrace it. And that doesn't mean you just flip a switch, but it is important to recognize that this moment is here for a reason, for you to pay attention and learn whatever it is you need to learn from that moment and make some decisions
You just
that you
want,
may have put off.
because they may just have foregone them and said, "Oh, I'll get to that when I retire or when I turn this age." And if it's coming to you now, you're supposed to do it now because even you stated Is this the place for me right now? Yes, you may have secured that job 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and it was beautiful. It was working well. But is it for you now? I just this week analyzing some stuff. Just last night I ditched a whole bunch of Facebook friends because you know what I realized, because this has to do with the topic. Part of the inferiority and the fear is I need to hold on to the past. Meaning that relationship, I'll never find another person like I knew in college or I knew in high school. So let me hold on tight. But the recognition that came for me, Teresa, was I haven't talked to these people in ages. Why do I feel obligated to? Because if we reconnect, I'm good with that. But what was going on with me is it was hindering me from doing what I need to do as this bridge builder. Because I saw it affecting me and I could feel it as I was doing the action. I could feel it in my body, the release. I said, why have I not done this before? It was,
Well, I mean that I social media is I we really have to evaluate why we are participating at this juncture. It is not what it was when we were introduced to it. And so it's really important for us to take some time and evaluate all of the things that we're choosing and allowing in our lives. Why are we doing it?
yeah, that's the question. Because you know, one thing I recognize, because like you, we're birthing communications in that space. What I've noticed is that is the hotbed for the spread of some of this propaganda. If people don't see it on social media, or they do see it on social media, it just creates a world storm. It creates all this stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're arguing with somebody across the country you don't even know. And you're using your energy as opposed to building or doing something you know you were designed to do. Yeah, we got to examine, why are we continuing to participate in some of these things we know is not benefiting us.
I mean, and as a marketer, there's an a tendency to consider social media as a tool for connecting with audiences. And I will say that my experience, my background is business to business versus consumer focused marketing. And so with that, even looking at the strategies for connecting with audiences is different. But if you're on social media and leveraging it as a tool for marketing, it's really important to do the work of evaluating where you're connecting with the people that you're trying to connect with, because a lot of times, I people will all the time say to me, "Oh, I sent this out on Facebook." Well, I personally am on Facebook for about 5 minutes every 2 weeks. So if you aren't communicating with me in a different way, then I'm probably not going to see what it is that you've posted. And now, with the algorithms being the way that they are, where the content isn't even being fed to you from the people who you know, then it's even less likely that I'm going to see anything that gets posted by the people that I know. So, to your point, why are you connected to people on these platforms where they're not seeing what you're posting, you're not seeing what they're posting? If it's relevant, if it's timely, then certainly you're going to miss it. I see so many things after the fact when I go on for my 5 minutes every 2 weeks. And so the question again becomes, why are we doing it? And if you are going to use it, then you do have to spend money. And so, you really do have to think about your strategies for connecting with people. And a lot of times it isn't what you think it is.
Mm-hmm. Because kind of to circle back, social media, depending on the platform, could be a valuable education tool, and it is in many ways because I wouldn't have found you. I wouldn't have met you if it wasn't for social media.
Yeah. Yes,
Because,
that particular platform.
we have a common colleague.
Yes.
So to me,
Yes.
there's avenues, and you have to almost be in alignment to see those things because not everybody, like you were saying, I get on there 5 minutes here and there every 2 weeks. We got to reach people, and that's our duty too, not to feel inferior. Like, I can't do this. I have to, they told, like, listen to this. They told me I had to use social media to build my business or to get funding for my school or whatever it is to let's say they're a politician running for office. I got to use social media. Who says? Who told you that?
Well, I mean, culturally, socially, these are the things that get infused, right? And so again, it goes to the idea of what do you control? And then the things that you don't control, how do you think about them and how do other people think about them and leveraging them? You have to really do an assessment. And because there are so many channels, really thinking about how many channels you're going to pay attention to and what do you know about these channels is going to be important. So, in fact, you know, spent doom scrolling doesn't really help on social media because you get lost and you go down a rabbit hole and you end up getting distracted from your purpose. Um, and so being selective about the channels through which you connect is something that has to be intentional, right? It has to be something that you think about. It has to be something you plan for and you spend time in a truly reflective and analytical way. And so that's really something that, in this moment where we have so many options to be distracted and to be misled, um, we need to pause and maybe take a break, at least, for a little while, for a day or two, just to reset
Hmm.
and then evaluate what it is that we're really intending to do. Before we go to the tool, let's figure out what it is that we want to accomplish. You don't say, okay, there's a hammer. What am I going to do with this hammer? You say, okay, I'm trying to hang a picture. And what are the
Right.
things that I need to hang the picture? Right? So it's a
Hmm.
different process. Social media channels are tools. That's what they are. And so treat them like that. And it changes the way that you manage them and interact with them and also interact with people because you know we to your point you can unfriend a lot of people and they won't even notice. So what is the point? Why did you do that? Why are you doing that? It's really really important to think about why are you doing what you're doing before you take the action.
Yeah, I can tell you one of the reasons just to speak on that because this could be an action step for somebody listening to this story here. At the time when I added them as a friend, that was current Elmira. Going back to what you stated of is this position serving me now? Is living in this city serving me now? It was. And I'm talking 10 years ago. 2016 it was serving me, but 2026 version of me is not serving me. So it's time to dump it. What I've discovered because of the fear, many of us don't want to let stuff go because we think we're going to need it or oh my gosh, what if? It's all the what ifs, but we can see that it's not even serving me. It's almost like, why do I have all of this food? Let's say I'm a vegetarian or something, but I got a full freezer of meat. For what? I'm not going to eat it. Why don't I give it to somebody who can eat the beef and eat the chicken, can eat the. It's like, why we hold on to stuff for so long? I know it's hard.
I mean, it's really like being a hoarder. So you can imagine someone who's a hoarder and they have no idea what's in the far corner of their room, buried at the bottom of a pile because it's been there for years. And they may have purchased it over and over again because they forgot that they bought it three
Hmm.
years ago. So that need to, um, yeah, to purge is good. And uh, really to set things up, you do a reset, you're setting things up so that you are not, you're not aggr accumulating things that you don't need, and you're being intentional, and you're evaluating before buy something, collect something, to make sure that it makes sense, and if there's an immediate need, do you need to own it or can you just rent it?
Hmm. That's a great tip. Based on everything you discussed today, what would you say is the number one action step people can take in unraveling, being selective, rebuilding the systems, confronting their own inferiority?
So I I think what I would love to say is don't be afraid, but that is not so easy, right? So the things that you can, prescribe, it would be very arrogant to say something like that, actually. But what I will say is that one thing that you can do is to spend more time with yourself and your own thoughts. Do that, dedicate, even if it's 5 minutes a day, just with you and your thoughts, and then increase that amount of time so that you understand what you are thinking. What do you really believe? Why do you really believe what you believe? Is what you believe true? Is it true? And that's a question to carry with you, even beyond the conversations and the reflections you have for yourself. When you experience other people, when you see things on social media, watch the news, and go out into the world, what is it true what you're seeing? Not that someone agrees with it, or but is there evidence of this truth that can be supported? And when you start to ask that question, more often than not, you will find that there are some stories that you've been telling yourself and making decisions about that aren't true. And so then you start to unravel the lies you've been telling yourself, and you start to create space for new ideas, new beliefs, and then new actions that you can take.
Yeah, that's the key. You talked about the purge, creating space, and I didn't know this conversation was going to take that direction, but that's the
Me neither,
beauty
right?
of allowing it to develop because that's what needed to be said. People
Yeah.
need to hear that.
I mean, it really, like I said, I started out in journalism, and for every story that I worked on, we had to have three independent sources to
Mm.
support any statement that was put out as true before it was put out as true. So when you think about, that is, an article that's published for perpetuity. So you're talking about your life. Isn't it worth spending a little bit of time investigating? Look for three pieces of evidence that either confirm what it is that you say you believe, or look and see if there's not that evidence, then maybe you can rethink what it is that you believe. So if you're telling yourself that you're inferior in some way to someone, get very specific and ask yourself, well, where is the evidence of that? Where is the evidence? And in our culture, in Black culture, we have so much evidence of our excellence
Mm-hmm.
that we can find at least three examples to any aspect, whatever environment that we're in, we can find examples of our excellence far faster than we can find evidence of being inferior to any group or any individual. That's what I know.
Yeah, look at the evidence. Like in journalism and an investigator, if they were a police officer, they would look at the evidence. Okay, we got one, two, three. Oh, it lines up. And sometimes because we haven't spent enough time with our own thoughts, we can't see the evidence. It's unclear because we're clouded with everybody else's. Oh, this one said this. The president said this politician said this. My mama said this. My boss said this. It's just everybody saying everything. But what did you
Yeah,
say?
right, right. And what is the evidence? Because people who are telling you who you are, they are likely lying to you, even if they have the best intentions. Many times they are lying, even if they're telling you something that's gassing you up,
Hmm.
they could still be lying to you because they don't, you are the only person who's with you 24/7, 365. You are the only one. You're the one who knows you.
So true. The only one. I tell people that that's why the name of my network is Self Care Boss TV. It easily transitioned from my massage, and I didn't know it was going to happen that way, but I'm following like one of my spiritual teachers say. She's like, follow your prompting. I was like, well, that was the name, so we'll just keep it. We'll
I,
just keep the
I,
name.
yeah. Yeah, and so many people ask me about my name, my company's name. So 10th Muse Enterprises is my company name. And that name originates from the ideas that I put out all the time about supporting other people in their ideas. So there are nine muses in mythology, Greek mythology as a foundation, but all faiths, all historical faiths have a version of nine muses. And they are the ways in which we are creative. And so, as the 10th muse, my idea is to bring out all of those aspects of your creativity and manifest them into the world, to let people know, to be able to identify first for someone, help them identify the ways in which they are gifted. We all have all of these gifts. It is like in human design, we have all of the designs, but some are more prominent than others. But it's 10th Muse. My goal is to work with brands and individuals who are trying to figure out exactly what it is that their unique combination of talents are to bring into the world and how to bring them out into the world through new ideas, launching a new idea into the world through a book, through a speech, through a project, through a program, through an initiative. So that's what the idea behind 10th Muse is.
I love it. Speaking of 10th Muse, is that where people can find your book? The
They can
How
go
to
to
Launch?
Amazon and get the book,
Oh yeah,
How
go
to
okay,
Launch.
go
Go
to
right to
Amazon.
Amazon.
Okay.
The ebook is there. I'm still in the process of getting the printed version available, but the ebook is there to download. And I would love for people to check it out, write a review, and reach out to me with any questions or thoughts. And I would love to talk about making people's launches come to reality.
What's the best way for them to reach you? Is it via email on your website or?
The best way to reach me is you can email me, Tresa at 10thmuseenterprises.com, or you can always connect with me. I am on Instagram mostly, so you can
Mhm.
DM me on Instagram. And please check out my website, and you can certainly sign up or schedule an appointment with me there. Learn more about how I help creative entrepreneurs, authors, and nonprofits grow their brands, launch, and connect authentically with their target markets.
Phenomenal. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. As I said before, I didn't know it was
Oh,
going to
have
take all
I.
the turns and the but that's me. I love it. You all heard it right here on News and Views. Check out the website. It's 10thmuseenterprises.com. Everything is spelled out. You can also contact Teresa on Instagram, on IG, send her a message. She would love to hear from you. That has been another edition. We will see you next time. Goodbye.